A few times I did a TikTok with like my natural curly hair, and people were like, "Oh wow, you should leave it that way." But I'm like, it's just so hard to like maintain it. Like
It is.
you have to put a lot of products.
Yeah.
And like me putting on this pigtail every day is so much easier than like yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I hate having curly hair personally. It's such a pain in the ass.
Because you can have a good day, but when you don't, it's like, what do you do with the hair?
I feel like I'd have more bad hair days when I just let my.
Like for you.
It was very different because I grew up in the farm, and I took care of like farm animals, goats, sheep, cows. We had plenty, and chickens. I also grew up with like a lot of dogs and cats.
Oh, really?
Wow.
There's like over 20.
So was that like, was that what your parents did for work? Because they're like farmers?
No, I think my stepdad just loved animals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he bought like a huge land and decided to build a house in the middle of that land and decided to just start
Wow.
getting farm animals.
How long did you live in the Philippines before you left?
I left when I was like 14, going on
Oh, wow,
my 15th
okay.
birthday. Yeah, so I was still in my teenage years.
So you lived with your stepdad, you said, and your mom?
Yeah. So I was adopted when I was 3. Before I was adopted, I was actually living with my grandma, and it was like in the slums. Like we were very poor. So yeah.
So you grew up kind of in a poor, especially poor place
Yeah.
in the Philippines with your grandma. Did you ever know your biological parents?
No, it's really awkward.
Do you?
I always wonder about that. Some people, I guess, choose to like go and look for their biological parents, but yeah, it seems like I don't know if I would want to do that.
Yes, I'm sure the emotion is so complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't empathize, but I'm sure that. Do you think about them ever, or is that something that's kind of you don't even think about on a day-to-day basis? Like,
Yeah, I don't really think about it. Yeah, because I was really young. I don't even remember if I saw them or yeah.
so, do you remember like your grandma? Do you talk to your grandma still back in the Philippines?
She actually passed away
Oh, I'm sorry.
last year. So, but yeah, I used to talk to her. Super sweet.
So you live with your grandma, and then you were adopted. You live with this family on the farm, and you lived there till you were 13. And
14.
Or 14?
Yeah.
Tell me about I'm just curious. You worked on a farm. Like, what was your daily schedule?
It was very hard, actually, because I have to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
4 a.m.?
Yeah.
I do. Oh, my
Actually,
God.
4 a.m. would be late. Sometimes I have to wake up at 3 if I want to get to school in time, because in the Philippines, school starts at like 6:30.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah. So I have to be able to finish all the chores. So I'd be sweeping the yard, like picking up dog shit.
Tons of dog shit.
Yeah, I'd be cleaning up the cat house because we had a cat house, and I'd be sweeping goat poop in the goat pen. And
Just a lot of cleaning up shit.
yeah, and I have to clean up real good because if I don't, then my stepdad would get mad at me, and he'd be like, "Oh, you're not eating breakfast if you don't get this done."
Wow.
So yeah.
That sounds like I think bordering on abusive.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize that until I got to the States that I was going through that. To me, it was normal, and yeah, it was.
So you'd wake up at 3 a.m., clean a bunch of shit, and then like, how would your stepdad decide if you did a good job or not?
He usually just checks the yard, and
You just see if there's
he
shit.
sees like a poop in the ground.
You don't
I'm
eat
like,
breakfast.
Yeah, sometimes I don't eat breakfast. Sometimes he just like slap me or I don't know.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And your stepmom, was she like protective of you, or was she also?
She wasn't really like abusive, but she was. I felt like she could have, said something about it. Yeah, but she was very silent about it.
Jeez.
And like my nickname was like stupid bitch growing up. Yeah, that was my
What?
nickname. And
At home?
it's hard because in the Philippines, like whatever happens in your neighbor's like house, you have to mind your own business. Like it's none of your business. So it's hard when I tell people like what's going on in the house, and nobody seems to give a shit.
So
in
you
school.
tried asking for help from people.
Yeah, in
but
school, and then I realized like nobody gives a shit. Like I went to school one time with a swollen hand on my right hand, and it was like bleeding, and I tried to like stop the bleeding before I got to school, but it was really bad. And my teacher was asking me why am I so like slow at writing that day, because
Like,
and I
hello.
told her, yeah, my hands are swollen and I can't write with my right hand, so I had to write with my left hand. And she was just like, oh, okay, just hurry the fuck up. And I'm like, okay, like nobody gives a shit.
No questions asked.
So yeah.
So the culture there is very much mind your business.
Yeah.
Don't get involved in other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Whoa. So did you have like siblings on the growing up there?
Yeah.
Were they also getting the same treatment?
No, my two sisters, they're treated way differently. And
You have two sisters.
Yeah, older sisters. I'm the youngest, and I also have an older brother, which he's here right now. You guys met him.
Was he, or well, I won't involve him. Your two older sisters were like not treated the same way?
Yeah, they had like a special treatment. They didn't really had to clean poop like that. All they did was really like maybe clean up inside the house, but they never actually cleaned outside that much.
Why is that? Why do you think they targeted you? Does that fuck with your head?
I don't know. I always thought maybe because me and my brother were like the younger siblings, so we were
Your
doing
brother
like
got
the dirty work too, you know?
Your brother got the treatment too?
Yeah. That's why we're like super close.
It's like Cinderella, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what my brother was talking.
You're literally like Cinderella.
Yeah. It's pretty tough.
So it was like that the whole time growing up in the Philippines. Did you resent your siblings who were like treated well?
I always thought it wasn't fair, but I mean, I couldn't really do anything about it. They were also like bullying me, and
Bro, what the hell?
yeah,
Golly.
they always got
That
like
is
the
rough.
nice things, and I would get like the handover, like here's my old bag, or like yeah, and that's also why I got bullied in school, because I would go to school with like holes in my shoes and like
People make fun of you
Yeah.
because you're getting treated like shit at home.
yeah.
The
And
world.
one time I got so embarrassed because my stepdad decided that my brother and I shouldn't be showering before we go to school. We should shower at night. So cleaning up like poop
Oh,
and
yeah.
shit like that, of course I'm gonna like smell, but I ask him like, can we shower in the morning instead? And he's like, no, you don't have
Oh
time
my
for that.
God.
Yeah, do your work, eat breakfast, go to school.
What's wrong with
So-
him? You ever think about that? Like, what is wrong with him? It sounds like he's a deeply disturbed person.
He recently said that he was diagnosed with PTSD because he was in the army
Okay.
for like 20 years, and that was his excuse. But I felt like, I don't know, I felt like, I mean, I have PTSD and I don't go around and hurt people, you know, or take advantage of like people. So
Is there some part of you now that you've become successful where you're like, fuck these people, bro? Like they treated me like shit. Now I bet they fucking wish that they were good to me. There's got to be like
Yeah.
a little taste of like, fuck them.
yeah, so they've been like reaching out to me and like, oh, we should
Yeah.
hang soon or meet. And it's funny because they think that when I go and meet them, they think I'll change my mind and be like, oh yeah, like
All good.
yeah,
Nice
all
to see you.
good. Yeah, it's very hard for them to accept what happened in the past. Like they can't accept it.
You think in their minds they are like, oh, wasn't that bad?
Yeah, and the way they apologize to me is like, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Oh, the work.
The worst one.
It was that made me feel so angry, and I'm like, why would you say something like that? Like, yeah.
So why would they? I'm just confused. Like they adopted you. It's almost like they adopted you just to like have a little servant. Did you ever feel like that? It's like
I
we
mean-
got this person to work the farm and
It
do the
didn't-
bare minimum.
Yeah, actually, the abuse didn't start when they adopted me. Like, it was good for like up until I was 6.
Oh.
Yeah, and when I was 7, that's when it started. When like we got all the animals in the farm, basically. But before that, my life was normal. Like I was still I was still like given like a good treatment. Like we would go to the mall and spend time like a family. But I don't know, everything started changing once we started getting like farm animals, once we started planting trees. I don't know, but that
you ever
was
think about why? Like why would all of a sudden
I felt like he
what
was
is that?
just waiting for that moment to like buy a big like land, build like a house and have a farm. And I feel like he was just waiting for that moment to like be that person.
Did he do any work on the farm?
He sits in his room like 6 days a week. But yeah, like he would only come out of his room for like an hour in the weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
God.
So deeply withdrawn.
And yeah, if he went out, it means he's checking like me and my brother's work. So we would be responsible for like cutting the grass by hand.
By hand?
Yeah, by hand.
Oh, that's just
Sometimes
Yeah.
the grass would be like taller than me, because back then I was like 7.
yeah.
And I don't know, I was always scared of snakes, but me and my brother would just cut the grass. Like
Just with like
a
shears?
sickle.
Oh, a sickle.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Not many
Yeah.
people here have sickle experience. That is kind of
Yeah,
bad.
I used to play with it too, and machetes.
Whoa. What is your dad doing in his room all day? Do you
He's stuck with his computer. I don't really know what he does on the computer a lot, but yeah.
just on the computer all day?
Yeah. And an
The hell?
AC. It'd be super hot in the Philippines. Like it would be like 95 degrees outside.
So he's hoarding the AC?
And, yeah.
Mother.
It's his room was the only place in the house that had AC.
Oh my God.
There was
Is
like
it?
7 rooms, and that was the only room that had AC.
Is it a very misogynistic culture as back then growing up?